Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome back to Mountain Valley Farm. This is episode number 2, and we're going to get right to work on this very foggy early spring morning here on our little mountain homestead here that we've got going on. We're going to take you right on out to the action here. But before that, I just wanted to bring you all up to speed that finally we got our permit process, or we got our permit that we applied for. We got all that in place, so we are now ready to go. Full-blown operation here on the new farm. Of course, we had to pull permits for everything. We first had to pull permits to remove some of the equipment that we had here, and also to tear down the old silage clamp here and stuff that got built by the tenants that took over the farm after my grandfather passed. And so I think what we're going to do here is we've gone ahead and also applied for permits. They're not in yet, but we are planning or thinking about maybe putting some greenhouses in here just as another source of income. So we've got all that in the works. We've got some architectural designs and everything that should look really well, and also should be very functional as well. So we have made a purchase since we were last together, and we did go ahead and purchase this Massey here with the bucket, the front loader, the bucket, and also the stump grinder, simply because we needed to go ahead and get a tractor that was capable of handling not only the stump grinding operations and understand that even the smallest of tractors would probably run the stump grinder, but we're looking at spending money one time for something, getting something that is going to fulfill the needs of our farm operation for months to come. And of course, this tractor will do just fine for that. And we wanted to go ahead and get this tractor and get the stump grinder going, because we didn't want to get so far ahead of the action that we basically forgot where all the stumps were. So we've basically been cutting and grinding stumps as we sort of go along. And so far we've removed 25 trees out of this area, and as you can tell, it has opened it up quite nicely. As I was saying before in episode 1, I'm not, there's a couple of different schools of thought on this. We could go ahead and open this field up all the way back here and just keep going and keep going and keep going and create one major super field, or we could basically create two fields. So I'm kind of thinking about this road here was put in by my grandfather, and it still is good and sound and everything. We might need to pack it down or something a little bit, or maybe put some gravel in here or something. But anyway, I think that is possibly fine. So we could like leave a row of trees, or even take all the trees out. Wouldn't be a problem, but create this as a field from basically this road all the way back over to where we were standing before, where the equipment is, and then basically utilize this area over here as another field as well. That way we can separate our crops, and this field is pretty much open with the exception of a few trees that we would want to take out. And of course we probably will survey all of this area, maybe with the drone, once this fog lifts. So but I don't want to waste too much time, and I certainly didn't want to fast forward through the fog, because, well, this will just give us something, a complexity to have to work with here. Plus it's kind of cool, the fog and the mist and all that kind of stuff. Just your typical mountain valley kind of weather. So we are making good progress. As I said, we've taken 25 trees out of here so far, and let's pull a few more out. Now I've sort of decided that, because we've got this rock wall here, we can't do anything with that, and the last thing we want to do is start bringing in dynamite. Because you guys might remember what happened with the dynamite adventure down on Pine Cove Farm, but or actually, I guess that was Goldcrest Valley. But obviously we've got a fence here. We've got this natural rock barrier here. So I've left some trees, because obviously we don't want to clear cut the entire thing, because that will just basically look bad on us. So we're gonna kind of do the right thing and leave some of it, because, well, that will just make for a nice barrier and everything. So we've got our Scorpion King, and man, I tell you what, this thing has, we've been putting it through its paces for sure. And so again, I'm sort of thinking about leaving these trees along the natural rock wall there, and we will just kind of come in here and we'll take this tree out right here. So again, this thing makes really quick work out of our work. I guess I didn't need to raise it up that high. Be very careful that we don't run a tree trunk through our windscreen there. And we will slide this around, and we'll go ahead and trim the leaves off or limbs off. And we're cutting these at 8 meters in length. That is the maximum length that we can cut with this particular apparatus, and that works just fine. The buyer is wanting them at about that length, and so we aim to please, obviously. And so we're just going to we'll take this one out here, since it sets a little ways away from the wall. And again, you just kind of come up with it and address it and cut it, and then I just kind of come back like this and swing around. And it kind of helps if you can keeping your cuts and everything semi going in the same direction kind of helps with getting things organized whenever it comes to getting things stacked and loaded onto our trailer and such. So that'll work right there. And again, as I said earlier in, I think, episode 1, please don't worry, I'm not going to dominate every single episode into cutting. I'm just not going to do that because, I realize that so many of you, kind of coming out of character here, I realize that so many of you watch this channel for the farming and for my stories and such as that. And so I'm not going to change any of that, but I thought it would kind of be fun to do a role play series a little bit, and I'm going to try to stick to that, and I'll fill you in on anything pertinent that I need to bring to your attention in the world of farm sim or in my world, or whatever the case might be. Now, one thing that I will say is that I'm actually recording. I've recorded episode 0, episode 1, and episode 2 even before I finished the Lawfold series, because again, I've got so much work to do with regards to the timber work that we are going to need to do. We've got a lot of timber to take out of here, obviously, because it's not just these 2 fields that we need to think about clearing. We've got several more. And again, because of my commitment that I don't want to dominate this channel with forestry stuff. So you will see, obviously, episode 1, just to sort of recap, we brought in much of our logging equipment and everything in by truck. And I sort of talked to you and told you that, we've got a contract that we have set up with the local forestry buyer who is buying some of this material for pulp purposes, as well as other logging needs and such. And we'll just bring this right over here and just throw this in like this. But in any event, I'm gonna showcase, obviously, this episode is going to be pretty much all about cutting timber. We'll stop here in just a few minutes and sort of sort some of these sticks out, and then probably take a load down just so that you can kind of get an idea for how much timber is actually worth here in these parts. And then I don't want to get too far ahead because, again, like I said, we are doing our best to try to make sure that we grind stumps as we cut, just simply because, well, we don't want to miss anything, because I'll tell you, there's nothing worse than getting some branches in the cab of your tractor, for one, but also getting all the work done and everything, and thinking that you're completely done with timber work, and then realizing that you've got a stump out in the middle of the field that you've got to stop and address. And so tell you what, that's probably enough for the Scorpion King for right now. Obviously, this tractor is going to get a big workout as we continue cutting out this area here. and we're just going to park it over here out of the way. And sure enough, as I park it someplace, it'll certainly be probably in the way, but for now, I think that'll work just fine. And then what I like to do is one of the reasons why we brought this John Deere in is to kind of help with getting some of the logs and everything all sort of situated and facing the right direction and everything. So I don't even in Farm Sim 15, I really didn't use the grapple apparatus. I think when this tractor came out, when this mod came out for Farm Sim 15, I think the grapple actually didn't work, or there was something that was wrong with it, and so I just really didn't get into practice of using it that way. And so I just basically use this blade and just kind of get things pushed together like this, and then I will come around and let's see here, come around like this here and push from this other side. This, push these guys kind of together. Of course, this guy with its tough tires and chains and everything will pretty much go just about any place that you want to. Here in the US, and I don't know if this was ever syndicated, if this show was ever syndicated elsewhere in the world, but here in the US, and I think it was either on Discovery Channel or it might have been on the History Channel, there was a show that was called Swamp Loggers or something like that, and it followed a logging company that was based, I believe, in South Carolina or maybe North Carolina, and they basically worked in the swamp areas and cutting out big timber and everything, and they had a bunch of different pieces of equipment, and it was quite a fascinating show. I think it was on for a couple of seasons. I haven't seen it in a couple of years. But anyway, so that's kind of how I do it with my stacks. And then I will kind of take this and just kind of give this another little nudge like that. This one going in there. And that show that I was talking about, they had these types of, pieces of equipment where they would push logs and pull logs and obviously cut trees and everything. And it was quite an interesting show, and it kind of featured sort of the same guys each episode. And again, it was kind of I guess I didn't get a hold of that one log there. Let me try dropping this blade down just a little bit. That's good enough. As I say, close enough for government work, and then we'll come around here and see if we can get onto this other stack and push everything together a little bit. This sort of reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to love my Tonka, my Tonka trucks and stuff, and playing with some of this equipment. It's stuff. I mean, I've never, like I've said before, I've never operated a combine harvester. I've never operated some of that equipment like that. I've driven tractors and stuff like that, but I've never driven anything like this before, and just having the opportunity to operate something like this in Farm Sim is just pretty cool. And even though, I'll tell you that I'm not a huge fan of the forestry stuff, obviously, we're doing it here on this map because it's telling it's telling a story, and I think it's telling a very nice story. Because clearly, in some situations, this type of work would actually would be done. If somebody wanted to create a farm out of either old farmland or sort of brand new forest or whatever, they could certainly do that. Now, one thing I did learn in 15 was I would basically take this tractor, I would park it right there, and kind of use it as a backdrop here, and kind of keeps everything in place from moving around when I get over here in my JCB wheel loader here. Get this guy fired up, switch over to my joystick, and get this guy lowered down. We'll get our parking brake off, and we'll jump in the cab and see if we can do some little bit of first person here. But yeah, just enjoying. Let me just jump out here and kind of see where we are. I can't really tell from. I can't really tell that well in first person. But yeah, use that tractor as kind of a backdrop, and then what I typically do is roll those forks down and get me a big chunk of logs there and lift it up. And I'll spin the camera around where we can see a little bit better. Lift that up, and we'll get in cab. See what we can do here. Back up and see if we can get these onto the trailer quite nicely. We've almost got a full load here. I had been working a little bit of this earlier. I'm not sure if we can get this all on there or not. So typically I try to lift it up. Need to pull it back just a little bit, I think. Roll it down. And I think that's going to be a load. So we'll just take this back over there and wait for the next load. This is a pretty slow process, even for me. So certainly don't get discouraged with it. I will tell you though that for everybody that essentially said, and even Giants basically saying that log handling and everything is much better in 2017 than it was in 15. I think I agree. I think it is. But it just takes practice. It takes some patience. And of course, if you really want to expedite the process, you can go for some of the auto loading stuff, and that obviously helps out tremendously. So I think we're pretty good here. We'll throw a couple of tension straps around this load, and that should get us down off the hill pretty good there. All right, that's a pretty darn good load right there, I would have to say. So let's all go ahead and run this into town. Yeah, I think some greenhouses will work quite nicely right over there. That'll give us something else to do with our manure, because obviously we need to have something to do with our manure. We could always use it as natural fertilizer, but we're not going to have enough of it in the early stages. We are going to be taking delivery of our first herd of dairy cows later today. not in this episode, but later in the game day. And then, of course, we will be taking advantage of getting all the equipment that we're going to need to be able to take care of that, i.e., being a mixing wagon. And we've already got our Massey tractor, so we don't need to purchase anything else with regards to that. And then we will need to buy some straw, some hay, and some silage. And we'll just have to wait on the grass for now because we don't have any grass to mow. All the grass has been knocked down to basically stage 1 level, which is not high enough to cut. But just as soon as it's able to mow, then obviously we will start mowing grass. And then once we can start mowing grass, we'll be producing our own silage. We'll be baling, wrapping bales. I'm not sure if we're going to go with round bales or square bales, or maybe we're going to do a combination of both. I don't know. We'll sort of make those decisions as we get further along in the process. But it has been a while since we have done any sort of bale making. We made enough bales in year 1 of Lawfolds where we didn't have to do any square bale wrapping. So that'll be interesting to see that back again. Plus, we won't have near as many cows. I think on Lawfolds we had in the neighborhood of 100 plus. We're going to be sticking probably initially starting off with about 25 to 30 head of dairy cattle. And of course a good bull, just to help with the little offspring there. And let's see, our sawmill, our lumber buyer is right up here. And it's a little bit of a tight squeeze to come in here, but it's all doable. And we'll come around this way. And then we can come around to the left here and then back right straight into the sell point there. And of course it does me absolutely no good to try to back up in first person because, well, the mirrors don't really work that well. And so we will do this. And before we get in there, let's go ahead and undo our tension straps. Like that. Like that. And once again, just like that. Okay. Take your parking brake off, Jerry. Truck will go backwards a little bit more efficient that way. Back in here. That's pretty good right there. Let's bring this up and we'll start the auto unload and things will start to sell there for us. And our money is growing. Cool. All right, well that's how that works, folks. Not much more to really say about that. And we'll head on back to the farm. And I tell you what, I will save you the journey back to the farm on this kind of foggy, miserable day, and I'll just see you back when we get back to the farm. Alright, heading on up the hill here to our main farm. If I didn't make it clear in episode number 1 or even maybe in episode 0, where I sort of set the stage on all this, how this was all going to work. Basically, we don't have any other animal type other than cows on this map. This map does not accommodate pigs, and it does not accommodate any lambs or sheep. So we are basically only in the cattle business, which is okay with me because it sort of gives us something to focus on and focus kind of nicely on that. So that was one of the selling points for me to sort of get on this map, is that with Lawfolds, we only did sheep and we only did cows. We didn't do pigs, but yet, we had the pig facility and everything there. And so I think that just concentrating on one animal type is sort of a break from things. And so we can really concentrate on just sort of being in the dairy business, in the cattle business. And I sort of wish that Giants had other forms of cattle other than just dairy cows. I kind of wish that they would do, other forms of ranching, other forms of cattle. But they don't. So we're just gonna do what we do here. So we're gonna grind a few stumps until it's time to go. Let's back up just a little bit, pull forward. A bit odd. That stump does not want to grind. We'll try one of these others over here. I do know it works because I've been grinding stumps. We basically, there we go. That one works. And it's gone. Okay, we'll grind the next one here. So yeah, this way, I can kind of do a little bit at a time, cut down 10 or 15 trees, and then basically come along and clear the stumps of those 10 or 15 trees that I've cut, and then that way, try not to miss anything. And it's just kind of a slow process, as you can kind of tell. Can't get in too big of a hurry. Really can't get in too big of a hurry with any of the tasks that we sort of do on the farm, but certainly not with logging. I wonder if I cut those trees down a bit too far, or a bit too close to the ground. Usually I make the mistake of leaving them a bit too high, and a little bit unrealistic version. But there's two there that I've basically had a problem in being able to get them cut. So we may have to investigate what we're going to need to do to get those stumps out of there, because clearly that's not going to be good for us. So I tell you what, I'll look into that. And I will go ahead and say thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoy bringing you my Let's Play videos. And if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have a suggestion for this, now keep in mind that by the time you watch this episode, I will have already figured out the error of my ways, if in fact there is an error. I'm not really sure that there is, other than the fact that maybe I just cut these stumps too close. I wouldn't think that would be the case, but you just never know. I may try another stump grinder, maybe a mod or something like. Oh, there we go. Maybe it's just a sweet spot that you just got to make sure that you get just right. You got to hold your mouth in just the right position, perhaps. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Welcome all of the new subscribers to the Grizzly Bear Sims family. That's really the way that I look at it. Is it's a family of friends, of like-minded enthusiasts, some who are more challenged at getting stumps ground than others. But in any event, we're here for each other, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask those in the comments section, and or you can contact me via email at grizzlybearsims@gmail.com. Again, that's grizzlybearsims@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for watching. Please return again for the next episode on Lone Star, or the next episode right here on Mountain Valley Farm. Take care now, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.